Hi class, the purpose of this video is to go over political machines, the causes and effects of the assassination of James A. Garfield. If you didn't understand the lecture on Friday, because I know it was so much content and we were tired, this video is for you, okay? So please watch it, pay attention, and that way hopefully you understand the power of political machines in the Gilded Age. Okay, let me share my screen and then begin the show. Okay, so here we are. Political machines. So first we have to see why political machines, why do they exist? And the reason is because during the time of the Gilded Age, the cities are growing. People are moving to the cities and um, the cities unfortunately are not ready to bring in a lot of people. So the government cannot keep up with the needs of the people, such as keeping up with transit, public transportation, water system, sewage system, cleaning in the streets, police and safety. So who's going to provide those services? And that's where the political machines are going to come in to provide those services for the people in the cities. So this is a climate of social Darwinism. Many cities are welcoming political machines, but also it's like almost everybody's for themselves. America kind of moved away from Reconstruction, and now everybody cares about making money for themselves. Social Darwinism, survival of the fittest. Um, and the solution to these problems in the cities is the political machines. They're going to step in and provide services in exchange for votes and money. Nobody does anything for free. And the political machines are saying like, hey, we'll help you out, but um, you gotta pay us money, and then we'll get our politicians elected so that they can give us all of those contracts to provide all those services. Okay, so the goal of the political machine is to work together with the community to get their candidates elected, whether Republican or Democrat or other political parties. The stronger ones were the Republicans and the Democrats. So they offer services to voters and businesses in exchange for political or financial support. Also special favors, as we will see. But that's the goal of the political machine. Uh, the cities are growing during the Gilded Age because look at this map. These red lines are railroad lines. So the railroads are connecting the entire country. You have the first transcontinental railroad over here that's connecting the West Coast with the East Coast. And you can see that the South has more railroads after Reconstruction. During Reconstruction, they're building these railroads, but the big cities are in the North. So as people are moving to Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, St. Louis, this is where the majority of the political machines are. They're in the urban centers because that's where the immigrants are going. And the political machines want these new immigrants to vote, okay? So the city governments cannot provide the services in the city. They could not be able to do that. So the political machine is going to step in and provide the services in exchange for money. So overall, the goal of the political machine, guys, is to organize controlling the activities of a political party. And I think we went over this in class, you know, where the political machines are organized like a pyramid. The city boss on top, and the war bosses, the prison captains, and the prison workers. These are the people that are going door to door, getting people involved like, hey, vote for this political machine, vote for the Republican political machine, etc. And in exchange, of course, they want their candidate to be elected. Now, there's some positive things about political machines, some negative things. This is an example of a city boss. One of the city bosses for the Republican machine was Roscoe Conkling. This guy, he was the leader of the political machine. So he got the votes and money for political party in return for providing services or favors to the machine. The machine will provide services in the city such as sanitation, safety, parks, utilities, etc. So these guys control city jobs, business licenses, influence the courts, and the machine is going to protect their loyal supporters. So people that are voting with the machine, they feel proud and they are voting with their candidate because they want something in return. They want a job in any of these departments. Okay, so this is the Republican political machine in New York City. The other, some of the benefits with political machines with immigrants, some of the positive things is that they are often looking for immigrants, new people that are coming to the country. There's a wave of immigrants uh, that we will be learning about in class very soon. And these laws are really easy for them to become citizens. Usually within 3 to 5 years, immigrants can become citizens of the US. So the bosses and the prison captains are often first or second generation immigrants themselves. So they know the language, the culture, and they were able to communicate with the recent immigrants that are coming in from Europe. So the machines are going to offer the immigrants housing, jobs, food, help with citizenship. They can give them business license, protection, and in some cases, they will even cover the funeral expenses in case one of the family members dies. So the political machines were really helpful for these new immigrants coming in from Europe. But there's also some negative things about the political machines. They are corrupt, and some of them were corrupt, and because it's very tempting, once they have access to all these voters and money in exchange for political favors. So there's a little bit of fraud, which is cheating to win elections. So sometimes people voted more than once. There's intimidation of voters that you have to vote for the political machine. Back then, the ballots were in different colors, so people would know exactly who they're voting for, and it wasn't private. People could see who you're voting for. Right now, we have a secret ballot. So nobody knows how we are voting. But back in the day, there was wide open. People are voting, and people know who they're voting for because they vote at a window, and then there's people right next to them when they're voting, and it's not very confidential. Okay, so there's a lot of fraud. There's also graft, which is using political influence for personal gain. So an example of a graft is bribes. So businesses offer money to get city contracts. Some bosses will overcharge the government and pocket the extra money. So for example, they would charge, let's say $1 million to construct a bridge. But then the real cost of that bridge is not 1 million, it's like $200,000. So then the political machine will keep the other $800,000 for themselves. So they would exaggerate on the prices and then charge the government and taxpayers, of course, because we are the ones that pay the taxes. They would charge them great fees to do this. Okay, so we'll look into some examples in a few minutes. So the political machines, the leader of the democratic political machine is this man right here, William Boss Tweed. He's the most famous of the world bosses, of the political machine bosses, Boss Tweed, William Tweed. He's the leader of the Tammany Hall political machine in New York City. He's a Democratic Party. So this man right here, as you can see in the political cartoon, he's always going to be portrayed like a greedy individual. And so this Tammany Hall corruption, let me give you an example of the corruption that Boss Tweed got. So one example is this courthouse in New York City. Charged taxpayers $13 million for a project that only cost $3 million. And that courthouse is still standing today. When you go to New York, you can see it. But look at the difference. That's $10 million difference. So estimated Tweed stole like more than $30 million to 300 million. Nobody really knows how much he took, okay? But this is an example of the corruption of the political machines. Eventually, he was indicted and charged with 120 counts of fraud and extortion. He was jailed, but was released after a year. Then he escaped jail and went to Spain, but then he was captured again and died in jail. He was captured because people recognized him in the political cartoons. So they saw his face and were like, "Ooh, that's Boss Tweed. He's wanted in New York City." And the man that is responsible for that arrest is going to be the artist of these cartoons. You see, William M. Tweed. So you have the thumb of Tweed squishing the city of New York. So under the thumb, the boss. Well, what are you going to do about it? So he's Thomas Nast, which is the artist of this cartoon. He's showing people who sometimes cannot even read or write, but the cartoons are speaking for themselves. They are showing the corruption of Boss Tweed in New York City with controlling trade, the public schools, the services in New York, and in this case, New Jersey as well. So, well, New York is already squeezed with the thumb, and then New Jersey is next, probably, like if they don't step up to stop Boss Tweed. So here, Thomas Nast, he was a prominent cartoonist. All of these cartoons are drawn by Thomas Nast. So his drawings led to the indictment of Boss Tweed because he let everybody know that all of this graft and corruption was responsibility of the boss. And you can see that everybody here is like pointing, who's responsible for this? Boss Tweed. Okay, everything goes back to him. So eventually, this is why he was arrested. So then the Thomas Nast's portrayals of Boss Tweed, of the corruption involved with Boss Tweed and his Tammany Hall political machine, show how sophisticated political satire and media and propaganda could motivate needed reform. So then people started to go like, we gotta fix the government. We have to make things better. We cannot be with people with like Boss Tweed intimidating voters to vote for the political machine. And then this is going to lead to the progressive era to change some of the problems of the Gilded Age. And here we have some positives. I mean, not everything's negative. There's some positives of the political machine. So let's look at the positives. So the war bosses, like Boss Tweed and Roscoe Conkling, they help the poor and gain their votes by doing favors or providing services such as food, clothing, and temporary housing when needed. They help immigrants to gain citizenship. They also use their power to expand public works projects such as buildings, bridges, parks, and waterworks. Many of the jobs for the public work projects were distributed by members of the political machine to their supporters. So this is why people were so interested in participating in politics, because they want a job and they want services. So this is expanded democracy, getting people involved in the politics. And during this time, there was high voting rates because people wanted jobs and services. So this happened during the Grant administration. After Abraham Lincoln, the political machines are really strong. They're very organized in the cities. But there's also some negative parts of the political machines. So some of the negative parts is that political machines could be greedy and vindictive, so they could seek revenge against the disloyal voters. And they often stole millions from the taxpayers in the form of graft, which is gaining money through illegal or dishonest means. In New York City, for example, an estimated 65% of public funds in the 1860s ended up in the pockets of Boss Tweed, the political boss of the political machine called Tammany Hall, and his cronies, of course, as they peddled bills for construction projects with fake expenses. Historians estimate that Tweed collected more than $200 million in graft between 1865 and 1871. So this is during the time of Reconstruction. This is going on. The Gilded Age is really after Reconstruction, or during Reconstruction even. So the political machines also were involved in voting fraud. Stories abound on instances where individuals voted more than once in elections through the support of political machines. So they just added more ballots to the count to win the elections. In one election in Philadelphia, a district with less than 100 registered voters returned 252 votes. This shows you part of the corruption. Due to obvious corruption and election fraud, some citizens began to demand reform or improvements to the political system in their city and state. Because of this and the exposure, now people want to change the spoil system, and they want to change the political machines. So this spoil system, remember, this comes from Andrew Jackson. Remember Andrew Jackson? So the spoil system or patronage in politics is the winning party. Whoever wins the election is going to hand out jobs to their supporters. That is the spoil system. So the government jobs are the spoils. So to the victor belongs the spoils. This system is replaced with civil service. Of course, after the assassination of Garfield, that's why that is very important, because this is the way the politics is run during that time with the spoil system. So it's like kind of like giving jobs to your homies. This reminds me of Andrew Jackson. It's true, because he's the one that started with the spoil system. So it's like a way of expanding democracy and getting the common man with the jobs in government. Okay, sometimes they're not prepared for these jobs, and people really want to have access to those jobs. So this is what's going to lead to the assassination of Garfield, because when Garfield is running for office, he wants reforms. Okay, he wants reforms to the spoil system. The first president that kind of challenged the spoil system is Hayes. President Rutherford Hayes. Remember the election of 1877? He wanted to reform the civil service, appointing qualified political independents instead of giving positions to supporters. So he said, I'm not going to just give the jobs to my friends. I'm just going to find qualified politicians, okay? Because there was a lot of corruption during the Grant administration. So, but there was no support, no congressional support, and no support from the Republican Party. So that's why he was not elected. He was not reelected. He did not even seek a second term because people didn't like him because he did not honor the spoils system. So the next election, James A. Garfield is going to run. And by that time, the Republican Party is split. There's 4 major groups right here. Well, there's 3 factions in reality. The Muslims are not a faction because they're neutral. So the stalwarts, they defend the spoils system. They want to continue with the spoils system. And this is the political machines. Senator Roscoe Conkling, okay? They love the political machines because they get benefits out of it. Then you have the half-breeds. They want reforms, but they still support the spoils system. They like it, but they want to change some parts of it. And that is going to be Senator James Blaine and also James A. Garfield. Garfield is part of the half-breeds. And then there's also independents who were against the spoils system. They believe that it was too corrupt. So the mugwumps are neutral. They did not care. They just want to be left alone. So Garfield wants some reforms, but he, in order to get votes, his running mate, his vice president is going to be Chester Arthur. Okay, he's a stalwart. So he's running as a half-breed, but he gets a stalwart as a vice president, and then that's how he gets elected. So on July 2nd, 1881, and remember, he took office in March 1881. So he was only president for like March, April, May, June, July, like 4 months. And then he was assassinated by a stalwart who wanted Arthur as president. Why? Because he wanted a job. The assassin of Garfield wanted a job because he supported Chester Arthur. He was a stalwart. So this is why when Gateau shot Garfield in that train station in Washington, D.C., he shouted, "I am a stalwart, and Arthur is president now." So that shows the danger of the spoils system and how desperate this man was to get his desired job with the government. And he shot Garfield in the back in this picture. You can see that. So this assassination, the Garfield assassination, is going to lead to this Pendleton Civil Service Act. So assassinated by an upset spoilsman led to Vice President Chester Arthur to become the president. So once he became president, he supported a change to the spoils system because Garfield had been assassinated. So he signed into law the Pendleton Act, also called the Civil Service Act. This is a major turning point because this is going to require candidates applying for government positions to test to determine their qualifications. You can no longer just give jobs to your homeboys. You have to make sure that they are qualified first before giving them the jobs. So this is going to bring like an almost an end to the political machines because now they cannot offer those jobs. People have to be educated and how to pass these examinations to be able to work for some federal positions. Okay, so what we see here is that well, some details before we get to the Pendleton Act about Garfield. It's not important for the test, but good for you to know because we are at Garfield High School. So he was shot at a railroad station in Washington, D.C., 2 gunshot wounds in the lower back. He did not die from the bullets, okay? He died later, okay? 11 weeks later. So the doctors checked the wounds without washing their hands or sterilizing their equipment, which caused his wounds to get infected. And this infection is the one that killed Garfield, not the bullets. Okay, so he died because of the negligence of his doctors. Otherwise, he would have survived. Okay, so when Garfield got shot and Chester Arthur becomes president, this is the Pendleton Civil Service Act. Formed the Civil Service Commission, which wrote a civil service exam. You had to pass the exam to get a government job. So it reduced the power of the spoils system. It reduces the power of the political machines. And in 1883, 14,000 out of 117,000 federal jobs became civil service exam positions. So little by little, this becomes more professionalized. And now the political parties are looking for, how do we fund our candidates? Like, we cannot just go for the people offering jobs. So who's going to help us raising the funds and getting people to vote for us? And that's when they turn to the corporations to get donations for the political parties and political action committees So the political machines are losing their power, and then the corporations are gaining their power because of this change in the civil service system, okay? So this is the question for you. The purpose of the Pendleton Act of 1883 was to A, filling some government jobs on the basis of competitive exams. B, establish the first racial quotas for government jobs. No, doesn't sound good. C, ensure that appointments of government jobs were approved by Congress. Not really, not all of them are approved by Congress. The president also can appoint positions. Declare illegal the system of city political machines and boss rule. Nope, it was still legal, but they lost a lot of power and leverage. So the answer is A, filling some government jobs on the basis of competitive exams. Yeah, you gotta pass the test, but then of course there's still a little bit of spoil system because they can still hire the people they want as long as they have the exam and the passing rate. Okay, so then the problem can be the political machines have more positive or negative effect on the American cities in the late 19th century. So you have to understand political machines and some of the good things about it and the negative things about it. Well, I hope this video helped. Thank you very much and peace out, everybody. Okay.